The Home Mortgage Law Show is a paid program and is intended as a resource guide for education, information, and entertainment purposes and is not intended to provide specific legal advice. The information that you hear should not be used as a substitute for competent legal advice from a professional attorney. Hiring of an attorney is an important decision which should not be based on advertising or the information that you hear today.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Home Mortgage Law Show. We're here with you every Saturday afternoon from 2 until 4 o'clock on our flagship station, News Talk 610, 100.3 WIOD and 970 WFLA. We have with us today attorney Shay duPont, joined, of course, by George Fajardo, director of
loss mitigation.
There you go. And joining us today also we have Luis Davila, who is the head of the Regal Tax Advisory Group, which of course we talk about a lot on this show.
Yeah, we talk about the tax implications of some of this loss mitigation that we do so often that I thought, what the heck, let's just bring Luis Davila in and he can talk about one very important act that affects all homeowners who get loan forgiveness, and that is the Mortgage Forgiveness Debt Relief Act of 2007. And we can talk about the implications of that act and how it could affect a homeowner, whether that be someone who's doing maybe a loan modification or a short sale, whether it's on their primary residence or an investment property. But the tax implications of doing any of these things are really important. And in our consultations that we have with clients, prospective clients, and in the course of our representation of our clients, we often refer to Luis Davila and Regal Tax Advisory Group and ask for their counsel on behalf of our clients and ask our clients to contact their accountant. Sometimes they don't have one and they go to Regal so that they can understand and prepare for the tax consequence of doing loss mitigation. And we've got George here, so we know that must mean we have a Rocky segment today. So we've got a big show today. We've got Luis here from Regal Tax Advisory Group. We've got George here, our Director of Loss Mitigation, for a Rocky segment. What Rocky segment are we doing today,
Well,
George?
a Rocky segment today ties in nicely because it's a client of the firm whom we've just been able to close on a short sale, whereby the lender waived a considerable amount of deficiency balance.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm glad that Luis is here because we could talk about how that tax implication will play a role in the client's upcoming tax filings.
That's very good because we can use that sort of as maybe as an example and then sort of as a starting place to talk about how the IRS treats a short sale. So we've got a lot to talk about today. Of course, we're missing my dear partner, Will Morris. He's out this weekend. And of course, I was out the last couple weekends. Thank you for tolerating some best of shows. And we have Natalie, our producer, back. How long were you out? Was it 6 weeks?
An entire month.
Ooh, it seemed like forever.
Yeah, my vocal cords attacked me, but we're good.
Yeah, and so Natalie's back. So we've got almost the whole group back with us. We're just missing Will, and we do miss him every weekend, but he will be back shortly.
And we have our phone lines that are open at any time during the show. If you have a question or concern, if you have a story to tell, make sure you call us and share your story. And you can talk to the experts right now. I know we offer a free consultation at the law firm, but what great opportunity to talk to the experts right now. And that number is 866-610-NEWS. That's 866-610-6397. AT&T Wireless customer star 610.
Yeah, so let's kind of start from scratch and remind everybody that this show is sponsored by the law firm of Morris duPont. My name is Shay duPont. I'm one of the partners in the firm. The law firm of Morris duPont specializes in loss mitigation, consumer law. And what does that mean? Well, that means basically that we help homeowners who are unable to or having difficulty meeting their monthly financial obligations, whether that's through helping them get a loan modification so that they can get their monthly mortgage payment lowered, whether that's helping them possibly get out of their property, maybe that's through a short sale, and to be able to then go out and rent. Maybe they're going to buy another house, they want to short sell the house they're in, maybe they have investment properties that they need to rid themselves of. Financially, they don't make any sense anymore, so we're talking about short sales. Bankruptcy, we do a lot of bankruptcy for consumers. That would be a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13. We also do debt settlement. You don't necessarily have to go to these debt counseling companies and, pay these large amounts, you can actually settle out your debt for, gosh, maybe 35 cents on the dollar, and do it in a structured way with a plan and get out of debt without filing bankruptcy. But you've got to have a strategy in place. We help with those strategies and we help with those settlements for that debt settlement and then credit restoration for all of the things that we help our clients with. There is often a credit impact, a credit score impact. So we then help you to restore your credit. There's many, many ways of doing that. And of course, we've had Michelle Hanash, our bankruptcy counsel, on the show with us very often, and she does the bankruptcy, and she also works and manages the credit restoration and debt settlement part of the firm. So Morris DuPont is a full-service firm. We have offices in Tampa, St. Petersburg, Dadeland, Doral, Plantation, Fort Lauderdale, Aventura, Boca Raton, West Palm Beach. And we have people in the office today that can take your phone call and can schedule for you a free consultation so that you can take advantage and speak to one of us. You can speak to me. I'm going to be in the Tampa office next week. I'm going to be in the St. Petersburg office next week. Doral, also the following week, I'm going to be in the Tampa, St. Pete, and Doral office. But we also have people who can meet with you in any of the other offices. You can have a free consultation and understand what your options are. Also, you can call our number, and you can, I believe that we have it now structured as of today, Louis, so that if people want to speak to you at Regal Tax Advisor Group, they can also use our number at Morris DuPont, and we can route them to be able to schedule an appointment with you. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, well, that's great. So we've got a lot that we are able to offer, and we're looking forward to speaking to you. You're welcome to call the show, and if you have any questions about tax implications on loss mitigation, anything to do with maybe the lender forgiving some amount of debt, waiving a deficiency, doing a short sale, and any other questions you have on foreclosure defense. Probably the biggest part of what Morris DuPont does is foreclosure defense. That department is managed by my partner, and we've got Jennifer Barrow, a great foreclosure defense attorney. We've got Monica in there. We've got, well, gosh, we just got a great team at the law firm of Morris DuPont, but you won't know it unless you call and schedule an appointment and see what we could possibly do for you. So I encourage you to call the law firm, and that number is 800-974-2712. I'll say it again. It's 800-974-2712 to call the law firm of Morris DuPont. We have people there today that can take your call and schedule a consultation for you. Or you can call the radio show and ask any questions you want. We're lucky enough to have Louis
Davila?
It's hard to pronounce. I don't know why. I guess because for so long I was pronouncing it incorrectly. Louis Davila, and he is, again, with Regal Tax Advisory Group. So tax questions you have on a deficiency waiver, and we're going to do a Rocky segment today. So, Louis, let's start. We've got a minute before we break, but let's at least introduce what I think is probably the most important topic that our listeners would be interested in, that you could probably help explain, and that is the Mortgage Forgiveness Debt Relief Act of 2007, which is a mouthful, definitely, but of course it's so important, and maybe you could explain to the listeners why that would be important to anyone who is maybe getting a loan modification with a principal reduction, or they're doing a short sale.
Yes, thank you, Shay. Like you said at the beginning, the law of the Act of Mortgage Forgiveness Debt Relief Act of 2007.
Yep.
That prevent the people who's getting reduction on the principal, who has a short sale, to pay taxes on the amount that was forgiven.
Yay.
We have to do some kind of interview to the client to establish if the client qualifies for the forgiveness. That depends on the total asset that the client has at the moment the amount was forgiven, and the total liabilities that this client or this person has at that point.
Ooh, it sounds a little more complicated than just a simple yes or no.
Yes, because it's not just forgiveness. Could be a tax deferred. So the tax deferred part is also important because the person could qualify for a tax deferred. Doesn't pay tax now, but pays in the future when something happens.
Well, then let's take the break now, because I think we're going to use the entire next segment to kind of go through what the qualifiers are.
You're listening to the Home Mortgage Law Show, brought to you by the law offices of Morris DuPont. 800-974-2712. That's 1-800-974-2712. That 800 number gets you a free consultation at the law firm. And like Shay said, there's offices everywhere. If you can hear the show, there's an office near you. 800-974-2712. Much more of the Home Mortgage Law Show right after this. You're listening to the Home Mortgage Law Show, brought to you by the law offices of Morris DuPont. Attorney Shay DuPont, joined by George Fajardo, Director of Loss Mitigation, and today Luis Davila, Head of Regal Tax Advisory Group. And our phone lines are open. If you have a call, a question or a concern, or just you're confused, that's what the experts are here for, to give you clarity and to help. 1-866-610-NEWS, 866-610-6397, AT&T Wireless customers, star 610.
And this is Shay DuPont with the law firm of Morris DuPont. And today we're shifting gears a little bit at the beginning of the show, because we know that when you do a short sale and when you get a loan modification, which includes a principal reduction, well, you're going to get issued a 1099 from the lender that does that principal forgiveness. Think about it, folks. You borrowed $500,000, let's say, and the property sold for $300,000. So the lender's getting $300,000 back. So they're forgiving $200,000. Well, that is considered to be income to you. You borrowed $500,000, you're only returning $300,000. You have income of $200,000, and that is what your lender's going to issue you a 1099 for, income of $200,000. Yikes, what are you supposed to do with that? Pay taxes on it? I hope not. That's why we brought in Luis Davila today from Regal Tax Advisory Group to explain to us a little bit more about how the IRS is going to treat that 1099, what I call phantom or ghost income. So, Luis, thank you so much for coming in today on a Saturday. You know what I'm talking about. You've got plenty of clients that we have actually sent over to you from the firm that have these issues. So tell us how the IRS deals with some of that.
Thank you, Shay. Yes, we have two 1099s that the IRS can send to the client. One is a 1099A, letter A, and 1099C. The 1099A is when the person walks out the property and the lender takes the property and issue the 1099. There is no any negotiation, no reduction of principal, or nothing done with between the client and the lender.
Okay, so let me guess that would most frequently be a foreclosure sale.
Right. If it's a foreclosure sale, or the client just walk out and send by mail the keys
The
of the
keys?
house
So
to the lender.
George, would that include a deed in lieu? Because a deed in lieu is a negotiation.
Right. For a deed in lieu, you actually have to negotiate it, and it does require lender approval. And there will be a stipulation of settlement in which the lender would typically agree to a waiver of deficiency if that was in fact negotiated.
So that wouldn't be
So
an A.
I don't think that would apply
No,
to an A.
that doesn't apply to
Okay.
it. When is any negotiation between the lender and the client, there is a 1099C. If
Okay.
there is nothing, 1099A.
Okay, and does
So-
the IRS treat the 1099A and the 1090C
Correct.
99C differently?
No, but there are some advantage in the 1099C that the 1099A doesn't have.
Okay.
So that's the 1099C is the most frequently form that the IRS sent to the taxpayer in the past 3 years is a 1099A. But we have in the 1099A, we have to evaluate if the cancellation of that income. We know that the code, the section 61 on the code says any income received or any forgiveness of income is treated as an income. Any income. That's what the code's section 61 says. And the cancellation of debt income, depend if it's a property which was underwater. In the case that your client that you have, if the example, using the example that Shay just did, the house had $500,000 mortgage, but the value is $300,000.
Right, and they do a short sale.
Right, they do a short sale that we have $200,000. What's going to happen with those $200,000? It will depend on how I manage my asset or how I am financially speaking, and my situation. If I have another house, $1 million value, fair market value, I cannot. I'm sorry, but I cannot write off those $200,000 because I have another house which doesn't have any mortgage. If the fair market value is $1 million.
Oh, back up. Wait a minute. So, number one, I think we should distinguish primary residence
Right.
from investment property. George is shaking his head, right?
Yeah, you read my mind. You took the words right out of my mouth. That was the first question I had. If we're evaluating your example, that second $1 million property, are you in that example? Is that the primary residence or is this another investment property?
It doesn't matter if it's a primary resident or not, because that's an asset that I have. I have $1 million house that doesn't have any mortgage as $1 million fair market value, and the government, or the IRS in this case, issue the lender issue a 1099 C to me, and I have to report that to the IRS. So when I do my balance sheet, I have my assets, my liabilities, and my net worth. So if I have that house, another house, it doesn't matter if it's a primary or it's an investment house. I have that house, $1 million value, and doesn't have any mortgage, and I don't have any other liability. When I receive that $200,000 in a 1099, I have to pay taxes on it.
All right, let me. Now I'm going to throw another wrench in there. Okay, so it doesn't matter if it's primary or investment, but you have an asset. Does it matter that it's a real estate asset? Because you're using as an example $1 million house.
Yes.
So it matters that it's another real estate asset over $1 million.
No, it doesn't matter if it's a real estate or it's another type of asset. What it matters is how much is my total asset at this point.
All right. So what matters is at the end of my balance sheet, my assets minus my liabilities equals $1 million plus.
Or $500,000 plus. It doesn't matter the amount. What I'm saying and trying is, if your net worth is more than the amount of the 1099, you have to pay taxes on that.
That kind of goes back to the insolvency test question, doesn't it?
Correct. Yes. What happened here is you can write off your amount on your 1099 if your net worth is less than the 1099-C in this case. So if the person doesn't have any other property, which is most of the case that I have received in the office, these clients, they don't have any other property, or they have another property, but it has a mortgage on it, and the total asset is $500,000, and the total liability is $600,000. We are in negative here. We are $100,000 negative, which means the person can write off the 1099-C, and that client doesn't have to pay any money on the 1099-C. And the person completely have to prepare the income tax, include the 1099-C, but it doesn't have to pay any taxes on it because the total liabilities are greater than the total asset. That's what the insolvency test is based on in this forgiveness, mortgage forgiveness debt relief act of 2000.
It's a mouthful. Yeah. And now, folks, you can completely understand why we send our clients to a professional.
We've got some calls to get to. Roberto and Richard, don't go anywhere. We'll get to you after the break here on the Home Mortgage Law Show. Pick up the phone and book your free consultation now. It's 800-974-2712. 1-800-974-2712. 2712. Just save it to your phone and share it with your friends. The Home Mortgage Law Show continues right after this. You're listening to the Home Mortgage Law Show, brought to you by the law offices of Morris DuPont. Our phone lines are open every Saturday from 2 to 4, and right now we're taking calls 866-610-6397. That's 866-610-NEWS. AT&T Wireless customers, star 610.
Oh, that tax stuff was making my head
Makes your
spin.
head spin.
Oy, oy. I got to have Lewis come back in another segment and kind of reduce it down, simplify. We want to talk about how if it's your primary residence and the lender forgives some amount of the debt and it issues you a 1099-C, you could actually be exempt from having to pay any taxes on that. But before we get there, let's go to the phones and take a call.
Richard, welcome to the show.
Hi, Richard.
Hi.
Hi. What can we do for you today?
Yeah. After listening to last week's show, you kind of hit a nerve.
Ooh.
And,
Ouch.
yeah. Well, the thing is that I've been trying to get a home loan modification with my bank for over 6 months now.
Ooh.
And first they threatened foreclosure because I'm 3 months behind.
Mm-hmm.
And they told me that they would not allow me to make any payments, and they even sent the payment back to me.
Uh-oh.
And then they said that Freddie Mac has new rules that if you're behind, you're not allowed to make any payments whatsoever, unless it's either a repayment plan or a modification or pay the whole thing.
Well, that's
Anyway,
nothing new, but
yeah.
okay.
Well, anyway, because my bank was bought out, the loan was bought from Chase, which I had before, about 7 months ago. Anyway.
Who's it with now?
Excuse me?
Who is your mortgage servicer now?
Oh, it's called Caliber Home Loans.
It's a new one on me. George, you familiar with Caliber?
No, but you know what? We have seen in the last couple of months a recent trend of a lot of the servicing rights being transferred over to some of these smaller investment companies that are taking over a lot of servicers.
They're out in Oklahoma. That's all I can say. Anyway, the thing is that I filled out all the forms that they wanted, and the first thing that they asked me with the application for the modification was my 2011 and 2012 tax returns plus pay stubs.
Absolutely.
And everything else, and I sent them all that, and they keep on coming back to me saying that, well, we don't have this and we don't have that, after they have already confirmed that they had it. About 3-4 weeks ago, they sent me a letter saying that everything was in review and it was going to the underwriter, and then this way they can put it together and send it to Freddie Mac. And then a week later, I got a letter in the mail saying that they didn't have my 2012 tax return. And when I called them on the phone about it, I said, well, you had it before, and it was sent in with the 2011 tax return. I don't know how you can't have it. And then the guy put me on hold for a long time, and he comes back. He says, yeah, we have it. And then he says, I don't know why the modification department doesn't have it. So he said he was going to send him a note and don't worry about it. And I called back a couple of days later, and they said that now because a certain amount of time lapsed, I'm no longer eligible for the HAMP modification, but I could do a Freddie Mac modification, whatever that means.
I don't like that. No, yeah, George is sitting over there shaking his head too. So let me make a couple of comments about what you've explained, the scenario that you have laid out for us so far, okay?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so one thing I always encourage people to do, if you're going to try and submit a loan modification application on your own, make sure that you are super organized. And one of the things you want to do is create a file. And every time you do something where you are interacting with your lender, you want to take very copious notes. You want to make sure that you write the date, the time, the person you spoke to, and the gist of the telephone call. And when you get on a phone call with them, you want to make sure you're speaking to the loss mitigation department, and hopefully you have been assigned a SPOC, a single point of contact, and hopefully you will be able to speak to them, and you can actually make appointments to have conference calls with your SPOC so that you will only be speaking to them. And when you get on the phone with your SPOC, you say, first off, go ahead and take a look at the notes in my file. I'll hold, because you want them, because they don't remember you from one day to another. They've got thousands and thousands of cases. You want that person to take a few minutes and review the last month or so's of notes. And when you finish the phone call, you want to say, all right, I will hold while you put some notes in my file as to what we accomplished today and what we agreed to, such as you confirmed that you have looked at my 2012 and 2011 tax returns, and they are properly signed on page 2. Because guess what? The way these lender reps are trained, if you submit your tax returns and they are not signed by you on page 2, they're not going to tell you that. What they're going to tell you is, we didn't receive it. Why?
Right. Well,
because they're out to try to not get you a loan mod. And they have the right to say that they didn't receive it, because when you send that stuff in by fax and it goes to the imaging department to be then turned into a PDF and put into your file, if it's not signed on page 2, they do not have to put it into your file because you did not properly follow directions.
right. Well, first of all, the first part that you said about speaking to my single point of contact,
Your SPOC? Yep.
when they first took the loan from Chase, it was called Veracrest Mortgage. I used to be able to put in an extension to somebody I want to speak to. Then they changed their name from Veracrest to Caliber, and now you can't do that. And every time I ask to speak to my contact person, he's on the phone or whatever, and they say, well, we can help you, and he gets the information. So I have never yet spoken to him in the 6 months, and I call like every 2 or 3 days to them.
Absolutely wrong. Caliber participates in HAMP, the Home Affordable Modification Program. That is under the makinghomeaffordable.gov guidelines, and there is a requirement that they assign you to a SPOC, and you should have access to that SPOC. That is a basis for a complaint to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, as is this complete runaround that you're getting on the tax returns. That certainly is another one. I don't know if you signed them on page 2 or not, but that
Yes,
could be
I did.
part of the runaround. Now I'll say, as you were going through this process and they were transferring it from one mortgage servicer to another and having trouble locating your tax returns, your bank statements and your pay stubs or your profit and loss statement those were aging, and they became outdated because they were more than 60 days past due. So suddenly another part of your application is now outdated or not complete, and that is they need new bank statements and they need new pay stubs or whatever your Social Security benefit, whatever it is that you are showing as your proof of income. George, did you want to make I see you over there. Your body language is like you've got a couple comments. Am I covering everything?
Oh, no, you're definitely covering everything. It's just a couple of things that pop into mind that just generally speaking, that I'm starting to see a certain trend with the major servicers, the Chases, Wells Fargo, Bank of Americas of the world, with all these increasing costs and servicing with the guidelines that are being implemented right now. They've already been through all of these growing pains where they have the systems and protocols in place with a single point of contact. And now with these private equity firms getting into this market, I have a feeling that we're going to be going through a lot of the same growing pains we went through 2, 3, 4 years ago with the big lenders.
Ooh, that's a good observation. Yeah. So, if you're documenting everything, I would really recommend that you possibly file a complaint with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and with the Florida Attorney General's office. That will put a couple of flags on your file and possibly get your file escalated and get you to have someone overseeing your file that's better than the person that's seemingly overseeing it now. And, take advantage of the consultation. Even if you just want to do a phone consultation with me, I'll tell you whether or not I think going through this whole process is worth it for you, whether or not I think you can qualify for loan modification in the first place. It's not hard. It's just you need someone who knows what they're doing. Do you know at today whether or not you're paying more than 31% of your gross monthly income?
No, I am paying more than 31. Not that much more, but I am paying more than 31%.
All right. Well, we've got to take a break right now. I appreciate you listening to
I have one quick question to
Then
ask
you can. Then I'll let you hold, and we'll do it after the break. How's that?
Okay, sure.
All right.
You're listening to the Home Mortgage Law Show, brought to you by the law offices of Morris DuPont. Plenty more coming up after the break. In the meantime, pick up the phone and book your free consultation. Smart thing to do. 800-974-2712. 800-974-2712. More of the Home Mortgage Law Show after this. You're listening to the Home Mortgage Law Show, brought to you by the law offices of Morris DuPont. 866-610-NEWS. That's 866-610-6397. AT&T Wireless customer star 610. I'm getting really excited about the Rocky segment. But in the meantime,
we were talking to Richard, who is trying to do a loan modification. His mortgage servicer is Caliber, and he ran into some issues. Richard, we didn't even talk yet about, and George brought this up during the break, the fact that they told you that you couldn't qualify for HAMP anymore, but they could possibly get you into a Freddie Mac loan mod. That statement seemed ridiculous to me because it takes a lot to not qualify for HAMP. So I think you should still.
They said it was because of the amount of time that we've been going through the modification process.
Well, and that's why it's even more ridiculous because time frame certainly isn't one of the reasons why you wouldn't qualify.
Right.
So
it's not one of the reasons?
No, there's no time limit on. If there is a time limit, they're the ones that have breached it. So
right.
It's ridiculous. That's an out and out lie.
I was wondering about one thing, though.
Yeah.
It's been on the news a lot lately about the fact that J.P. Morgan Chase has to pay like $13 billion back to the government.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering, because of the loans that they bought from Bear Stearns and Washington Mutual, my loan originated in 2007 from Washington Mutual. Could that have anything to do with why they're taking so long?
No, because your loan actually would have probably been covered under the $25 billion mortgage settlement that Wells Fargo was a part of that actually settled back in March of 2012. So if you have negative equity on your property, you might, it's a Freddie Mac loan, so you can't get a principal reduction. So it really shouldn't have any impact at all. None of these settlements should have any impact whatsoever when you've got a Freddie Mac loan. Because remember, it's Freddie Mac that owns your loan. Wells Fargo, WAMU, all of these companies are mortgage servicing companies. They are servicing the loan on behalf of the investor that owns it. And the investor that owns it is Freddie Mac.
Right. Well, because my loan originally was when I took it out from Washington Mutual.
Yeah, and they probably sold it in 72 hours to Freddie Mac.
Yeah. Because it was not one of the like the loan application, all that stuff. They didn't verify anything. They just I went in there, filled it out, and I got approved.
These companies are in the business of getting fees and selling the loans, getting them out of their portfolio as quickly as possible. People go, well, yeah, but my loan was with Chase. My loan was with Bank of America. No, none of these companies are really companies that hold on to mortgages. They sell them to big investors, or they package them into mortgage-backed securities, and they're held by trusts. It's a much, much bigger operation than most people think of. And when people think of Bank of America and Wells and all this, they think of these brick and mortar banks that really have nothing to do with mortgage servicing divisions of these huge corporations.
Yeah, plus a lot of that money is actually going towards settling claims, internal claims between the GSEs, Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, and J.P. Morgan themselves.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really trickle down to the borrowers, to the homeowners, as you would think.
Yeah. So did we answer all your questions, Richard?
Yeah. One other thing, you said I should send a complaint to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and you mentioned another.
Oh, I would definitely let the Florida Attorney General's office know. They have a complaint division. I've spoken to a great guy there. His name is Kevin Smith. And they deal with the issues with the national mortgage settlement that we're involved in, and that includes Wells Fargo. And I would file a complaint also with them.
I put a link up for you, Richard, on the Facebook page for the Home Mortgage Law Show. So all you have to do is click there.
That's our producer, Natalie. So we have a Facebook page. It's called the Home Mortgage Law Show. You can find that on Facebook. Just type in Home Mortgage Law Show, and we put a lot of information on our Facebook page, and all the articles that we referenced during the show, we put them all up on the Facebook page. Any article I read during the week, anything that any of us in the law firm is thinking that's something that we should all be sharing, we post those up there. And then on Friday, someone in the office prints all those articles for us, and we're all responsible for reading them. So, but again, those links now are on the Facebook page, Richard, so you can access them there. So you don't even have to write them down.
Right. Well, since at the point with the Caliber where they say that my file is pending and they're sending it to the underwriter, and that means I'm still in the modification process. And last week you said that after you haven't made a payment in 6 months, that they can start a foreclosure unless you're in the modification process. So do I not have anything to worry about right now?
Well, it's not that you're in a modification process. It's if you have an active loss mitigation, that includes a short sale application under active review with your lender. So you do qualify in that you have an active loss mitigation application under review with Caliber, and that loss mitigation application is for a loan mod. That doesn't stop them from filing a foreclosure action, although they're not allowed to. I just saw a client of mine get served with foreclosure papers last week, and I think we've got him in a trial modification at this point. But what happens is we turn it over to the foreclosure department at Morris DuPont. The foreclosure department contacts opposing counsel and says, look, you are in violation of the guidelines. You withdraw that foreclosure complaint right now, or I'm going to go after you for fines. And certainly they do normally withdraw the complaint then. So it's not going to stop them from doing it, but they're not allowed to do it. Does that make sense? Do you see the difference?
Yeah, it does. But, it's just like they're going to do that, and then they're going to say, well, they're the ones that won't let me make my mortgage payments.
Right. You can't make a mortgage payment if you're more than 80 days past due. No lender ever allows anyone to make one mortgage payment if you're more than 80 days past due. What they say is you pay the entire 3 months past due, or you're heading towards foreclosure. And that's what's happened to you. You were doing a rolling 60 days past due maybe, and you got past the 80 days, and bam, the lender is now forcing you to either pay the entire past due amount or face a possible foreclosure action. So keep pushing on that loan modification, Richard. If you think and you've done the math and you know that you qualify, keep pushing. I want you to call Caliber and push them on that HAMP denial, though. I think that was wrong.
Right.
All right?
Well, okay.
All right. Thanks for listening to the show. Keep pushing. I know we've got a Rocky segment coming up. We've got Lewis here from Regal Tax Advisory Group, and Natalie loves this next phone call, so bring it on.
Hi, Rich.
Hi, Rich.
Hello, how you doing?
Good. How are you? Natalie was all wanting us to take this particular call before the break. So what can we do for you today?
Well, I have 2 words to say to you guys. Thank you. I used your firm for my loan modification.
Oh.
It was an absolute success. My mortgage payment went from $2,600 down to $1,350.
Woo!
It's the Rocky before the Rocky. See that?
Rich, why don't you come on and be a Rocky for us one week?
Yeah, we got to do this right and proper. Do a full segment on it.
Well, maybe I will. I also got a reduction in my principal by $120,000 over 3 years.
These are awesome results. I don't know which client this is, so I'm a little, I guess, not quite settled. Rich, I love you calling in and giving the listeners these kinds of results, because it's not just our Rocky segments, folks. We really do get these kinds of results for people even outside of our Rocky segments. But Rich, you got to call the office next week, and we got to schedule you and do a proper Rocky segment with you.
That's fine. I'm going to give some props to a couple of people in your office.
Go for it.
Maria. You know Maria?
Absolutely.
I call her my bulldog.
Well, yes, in a way, because we're all relentless.
Oh, she is. She should have heard her on the phone. I had my appointment with my lender, kind of one of the final phone calls when they ask a few questions and they set you up for your trial payment period.
Yeah, you're kind of that closing.
Yes, and they asked you a few questions, and she was like, nope, can't ask that. Nope. And she's tough. She's a really smart lady, too.
Yeah. Well,
so it was
really,
all professional.
I appreciate that. I think we have a fantastic, absolutely fantastic team of people. in the loan modification department, in the short sale department, bankruptcy, credit restoration, debt settlement, foreclosure, defense. I mean, we do it all, and we try our best on behalf of our clients, and we're looking to win on every single file. I love to win, and we all have that mentality there. Everybody likes to get a good result for our clients. It's great when you call in unsolicited. I really appreciate it. But give us a call during the week so we can set you up proper and tell the listeners about the great results we were able to achieve for you and your family.
Okay, great. I got nothing to say. I spent the money on the legal fees, and nobody wants to pay for attorneys. Don't take it personal, but nobody wants to pay them. So they're short-sighted, and they say, I can do it on my own. I can fill out the paperwork. I can do it on my own. Trust me, I have a very good friend who had a loan with the same bank, and her results don't even compare to mine. She got no principal reduction, her payment didn't go down as much, and she pulled her hair out for 6 months.
Oh.
People who are listening, use an attorney. If not Morris DuPont, use somebody. It makes your life so much easier. It's just you're already struggling and stressing. Let the professionals take care of the loan mod, not you.
Well, think about it. Your savings now and your mortgage payment every month are about $1,250, right?
Yeah, $1,250.
All right, so you got the money back in less than 3 months. We got to go. We got to take a hard break. Rich, thanks for calling. Appreciate it.
Now, don't go anywhere because we've got a Rocky segment coming up here on the Home Mortgage Law Show, 800-974-2712. We'll have more coming after this.